All right, cool. Sebastian, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
No complaints at all, man. No complaints at all. So, I gotta start off with like the mundane questions, like how's training camp going?
Yeah. Well, it's going great. It's going great. We're getting ready for this fight. We're closing up camp, and I'm very excited to put on a show. And my sister's fighting on the fight on the card as well. So we're gonna put on a great show for Southern California.
Ocampo kind of came onto the scene. I really want to say he kind of came on because of his fight against Errol Spence, because Spence is a big name. Then Spence ended
Yes.
up getting rid of him in a pretty fast way. But since then, he's reeled off, I believe, 7 or 8 wins in a row. Have you been able to
11.
kind of watch his progression?
Yeah. Oh, on he wasn't on my mind before that, but as soon as they mentioned his name, of course, we had to do our research on him. We noticed that he's been on a long win streak, 11 wins in. So um, we're excited for what he's gonna bring.
Gotcha. Now obviously, I believe you're the WBC interim champion. That fight you had against Erickson Lubin might be fight of the year. It was pretty crazy. Um, in terms of when you see yourself fighting for a title next, do you think it'll happen next year, or do you just find it pretty difficult because one guy had all of the belts, but then he had all of these mandatory challengers and other big names that want to fight him?
I don't see it hard. It's just patience, just patience. I guess Tim Sue has first. Hopefully we can have him after that. But if not, I'm gonna focus on my career. I have a lot of things to do still. I'm not world champion yet, so I'll just as soon as they call me, I'll take the chance. But till then, I'm just gonna focus and continue to get these wins.
Gotcha. Now, I got to ask you about a certain guy that, kind of came stomping into your division. I believe it was about last month or so, and Danny Garcia, huge name, big star, looked great against Jose Benavidez Jr. What did you kind of think of
Yes,
it overall?
it was a good fight. Good fight. I feel like he's turning back to the Danny Garcia that we know and love, and that weight jump was probably what he needed to feel more comfortable with his body again. I love to get a fight with him, of course, just like everybody else. Everybody thinks that's a good money fight, like Tony Harrison and all them. Who doesn't want to make money in this sport? He's a big name. He's a former champion. Uh, I mean, he's already introduced into the weight class, but let's try to introduce him again. Why not?
How would you kind of see a fight like that playing out? Granted, I know you're going to say that you're going to win. That's pretty obvious for you to say. But could you see
Uh-huh.
yourself stopping a guy like Danny Garcia, somebody that has such a granite chin and hasn't really been hurt throughout his whole entire career?
Um, I can't really say without seeing being in the fight myself. Maybe after that first round, I could tell you, but I think it'll be a great fight. He's an explosive fighter. He's a strong fighter, and I know it'll be a great fight for the fans.
You aren't exactly the guy that, a lot of people are calling out. People are calling out Charlo. They're calling out Danny. They were calling out Erickson Lubin, Tony Harrison. Fundora isn't exactly the guy that everybody's calling out, maybe because you're about 11 feet tall. So, do you see yourself staying at 154 for a pretty long period of time, or do you eventually see yourself sooner rather than later going up to 160?
As of right now, I'm comfortable at this weight class. As of right now, and I say that because our body's always growing.
Yeah.
But we'll see by next year. I have plans to become a champion at this weight class. But if my body tells me by after the holidays, hey, time to move up to 160, time to move up to 175, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna worry about it. Just that's my career, that's my body. If God tells me to do it, let's go.
Gotcha. Well, I have to ask you now because you were already talking about Charlo, Tim Tszyu have next, and then you're hoping that you have next after that. Um, who do you kind of see winning that fight? Do you think it's a little bit too early for him, or do you think he actually has what it takes to usurp Charlo and become undisputed?
I think all the mandatories has what it takes. That's why they're in that position. But I do have Charlo winning. I do think he's stronger. I feel it almost as a Castaño and Charlo fight.
Gotcha. Now forget about Charlo, forget about Danny Garcia. Another guy who I believe he fought either on the same card as you or in close proximity to you was Tony Harrison. He got a great
Yes.
win over that you fought in Sergio Garcia. How did you see it performing? And if you did, what did you kind of think of it?
I watched some of it. Tony Harrison did his thing. He looked great. Beautiful boxing. Hopefully we have a fight with him later on in the future too. He's a former champion. He's a great talent at 154. It'll be a great fight for the fans as well. I know a lot of people want to see it. He's the #1 in the WBC, and for a reason. Again, he's a talented fighter, and I'd love to fight him.
You've done everything that you've had to do in terms of ranking your way up the rankings, beating Erickson Lubin, who was on a really great win streak and a terrific fight. But over the past few years, Charlo unfortunately has fought about one time per year. Hopefully that won't continue, but he has fought only one time per year. So let's just say that trend continues. I know you're not the type to be like, hey, I want to fight this guy, I want to fight that guy, I'll beat that guy up, whatever. I know you're not the type, but if you can't land that Charlo fight, who is that one guy that you're just like, all right, I know he doesn't have a belt, but if I can beat this guy, nobody can deny me a title shot.
Well, it's we're gonna stay in the top 10. We're gonna stay whoever wants to fight in the top 10. If we have to fight the other mandatories, why not? I'll do. I'll just continue to put on these hard fights because I feel like that's what's gonna make us grow. That's what's gonna make us ready for that Charlo fight. If we're not ready already, I already feel like I'm ready, but that's gonna keep us ready if anything.
What makes you say that you're already ready for a Charlo fight? Granted, I'm not saying that you're not, but I'm saying you're pretty early in your career. You do have a really good amount of good wind under your belt. Like I said, you did knock out Lubin. But what makes you so confident that you're just like, hey, I know this guy has all of the belts. He's a pound for pound level guy, a really great fighter, but I know I can beat him right now.
Well, I feel like we've been growing. We've been fighting this hard competition for a long time already. I feel like the whole time I've been with PBC, it's only been hard competition. So another hard fight, not that it's no different, but it's something we can do, So seeing a pound for pound unified champion, I think it's something we can do as well. Because again, we've been fighting this hard competition. We just fought the #1. Before that, we fought the #2. Before that, we fought the #4. So these are hard fights. These aren't easy fights. So it's like it's nothing new to us.
Gotcha. It makes a lot of sense, actually. I would also have to ask you to kind of, give me just your thoughts on Charlo overall as a fighter. I believe he's knocked out. I know he's knocked out every other world champion that he fought, from Rosario to Castano and someone else. Oh, when he rematched Tony Harrison and beat him for the belt, he knocked him out as well.
Yes.
How do you kind of look at him as a fighter? I'm already assuming that you think that he's the top guy. Everybody has to think that. But just what do you kind of think of him as a fighter overall?
Talented fighter. Very talented, very strong, very disciplined. A champion. That's what a champion is, no? But I like to fight him, of course. That's just the competitive side of me in boxing, Anybody that comes into my weight class, of course, we want that fight. We don't have to call out names, of course, because it's gonna happen. If you're the best, we want to fight you, of course. That's the obvious. Everybody wants to do that in the sport. But to look at his career, you definitely have to recognize him that he's one of the greats right now.
I know that you've said before that you don't really like to predict knockouts or anything like that, but your punch output is so ridiculous. Like I remember I was talking to Lubin actually a few days after his fight with you, and he was just like, he thought that he could box you from the outside, but whenever you would take like literally one step, you was just already in his face. Do you think that your style can kind of lead to you not only beating Charlo but also stopping him as well?
Well, that's what we work for. That's what we do work for. We feel like, not that we feel it, but you go in there with the champion, you're already 2 rounds behind, so you can't leave it to the judges. You have to go there and you have to win it with a fashion that everybody knows you won. you know. And the only fashion I see that way in winning is say if we get like a stoppage win or a knockout win. That's the only convincing way, you know. And it's good for the fans. It's good for everybody, you know. Maybe we'll start getting the real respect that we deserve it, and that's how we have to win that fight.
Got it. And just my last question, man, kind of to go back to your fight against Ocampo, obviously. You know, you kind of touched on it just 2 minutes ago when you were saying that, you know, it's not just the wins, it's about how you're getting these wins. And at this point in your career, you're kind of at that point where it's like, okay, Fundora didn't really look like, I mean, just from the outside looking in, he looks like the nicest guy ever until, you know, you get in the ring with him. So at this point in your career, do you feel like a little bit of that pressure where you're just like, damn, you know, I don't just have to get these wins anymore. Like, I got to start knocking guys out, even though you've already been doing it. But now I guess people are going to expect more of that from you.
Yeah, I don't feel pressure from it. It's only I feel it helps me, you know, like this is what they expect. I mean, you could look at it as a pressure type of thing, like not losing your O. You don't want to lose your O and stuff like that. But it's just more motivation. Like, hey, you got to put on a good show. Put on a good show for the fans. You know, and that's it. You know.
Gotcha. Thank you, man. Really appreciate you, and really looking forward to your fight, man. You're a joy to talk to.
Thank you for having me.